Conference, and welcome to the second day of the NFU Conference 2012. We heard from the political challenge discussed and debated yesterday. We also learned from the comments and practical examples in the business challenge, a very positive session. This session will focus on the science and technology and ask how we balance competing priorities but make sure that we produce what is demanded of us. This session is fundamentally about how we meet the challenges set out in last year's Foresight report into the future of food and farming. We're very fortunate to have two highly eminent speakers this morning, and if I could immediately introduce our first speaker, Martin Taylor. Martin is Chairman of the Board of Directors and Chairman of the Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Farming, Agriculture. Martin Taylor is currently Vice Chairman of RTL Group. Previously, he was an advisor to Goldman Sachs International, Chairman of WH Smith's PLC, Chief Executive Officer of Barclays PLC and Courtaulds Textiles. He's recently served as a member of the British government's Independent Banking Commission. Martin also has a degree in Oriental languages from Oxford University. Martin Taylor.
Thank you very much, Gwyn. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be with you, even in Birmingham. It's a bit of a shame they built this place on what I suppose was perfectly good agricultural land, but it probably felt like progress at the time. It's a privilege to be addressing a group of people, I know, a large number of whom I know will be Syngenta customers, and many more perhaps potential customers. I knew I was among farmers when the guy next to me in the cloakroom tried to negotiate the price for checking in his coat. Having heard from Gwyn how I spent the last few years of my life, you may regard me as an imposter, a sort of jumped-up refugee from the banking world who made what turned out to be, with hindsight, a rather clever switch from finance to agriculture, just in time to avoid being blamed for blowing up the world economy. I hope you'll give me the benefit of the doubt. I count myself extraordinarily lucky to have come into this world in late middle age, and the importance of agriculture at the moment has never been greater. The importance of what you all do is something that I'm very proud to be associated with. We're here this morning to talk about the production challenge, simple enough to explain. First of all, about 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night, which is a scandal, really, given that we have the means to feed them. Protein demand per head is rising sharply in the newly rich countries of Asia and Latin America, and eventually perhaps in Africa, as people aspire to consume more meat in particular, in line with their increasing prosperity. The supply of arable land is limited, and we continue to lose good land to cities, hence my joke about Birmingham, and of course climate change is not always helpful in many countries. The world's population has passed 7 billion, it's heading to somewhere between 9 and 10 before it may begin to fall back, and so we need a lot more food, a hell of a lot more food. And technological advance is indispensable to provide it. Syngenta is absolutely committed to playing its part in making the relevant technologies available to all growers who want them, as long as governments don't get in the way. Now, to meet the global production gap, two things have to happen. This is not a matter of ideology, it's a matter of arithmetic. First of all, already highly productive farmers, people like you, in the advanced agricultural economies, have to continue to raise output as technology advances and permits you to. But you alone cannot make the difference. The smallholder farmers in India, Africa, and China need to double, or in some cases triple, their output over the next 40 years. And they have not really been seen as contributors to the world's food security. They've been seen more as a question of as a social issue, a rural poverty issue. But they do farm half the world's arable land, and we can't make it without them. So we at Syngenta understand that not only do we have to innovate at scale in bringing new seeds to market, whether transgenic or conventional, and inventing new chemical products for the industry, but also we need to find ways of distributing better seed and more advanced chemistry in small pack sizes and with highly responsible stewardship to small farmers in the developing world. And I'm proud to say that we're doing both. Syngenta is not only easily the most inventive creator of new GM traits in the last 5 years, and you may not know this because you aren't allowed to buy them, but also we are the market leader throughout the emerging countries, in most of which our industry was barely present a decade ago. Oh, it's not just places like Africa and Asia that the challenge presents itself. Western Europe today, one of the most fortunate of the world's agricultural regions, has to import the equivalent of 35 million hectares of land production annually to meet its food requirements. Germany became a net importer of cereals last year for the first time in its modern history. There is something fundamentally perverse, it seems to me, in the development of European agricultural policy. In the 1990s, when food supplies globally were abundant, we subsidized overproduction and dumped the surplus in developing markets to the great detriment of the development of their agriculture. Now that food worldwide is scarcer, we're promoting more extensive agricultural methods. And so once again, we contribute with magnificently poor timing to making things slightly worse for the world. The humanitarian impact of a productivity gap is on its own serious enough. We've seen recently, particularly in the Middle East, how shortages of food can easily trigger domestic unrest and violence in already volatile societies. And so the productivity gap is not just about hunger, it's about political stability, but as well as being a challenge, it's an opportunity to which I believe farmers here in the UK and indeed in many parts of Europe are very well placed to respond. British farmers are amongst the most experienced, productive and technologically advanced anywhere in the world. I don't say that to give you pleasure, I say it because it's true. We have, as I said, one of the most conducive growing climates known to man. We have superb storage and distribution infrastructure, things that we may take for granted, but people in many countries can only dream of that. And the quality of our produce is without equal. And this, of course, is one of the reasons why Syngenta continues to invest almost a quarter of our research and development spend. We spend about $1 billion, more like $1.1 billion this year annually. That's 2.5 to 3 times what the British government spends on research and development. We spend a quarter of that in Berkshire at Gellets Hill. Not, alas, our most advanced gene research. That, for reasons you'll easily understand, happens in the US and China, and increasingly maybe in Latin America. Now, to state the obvious, the challenge can't be met without you. And I've no doubt that given the right support, you have the ability and the drive to help close the gap, reduce the stress on the environment, and grow your businesses all at the same time. And that's what our new strategy is focused on at Syngenta, trying to help the farmer succeed by growing more sustainably. We're challenging our people to think like growers and develop a deep understanding of the opportunities and challenges you face, the economic, social, agronomic, or environmental, and providing the technologies and solutions that you need to succeed. And one key component of this approach is the integration of our crop protection, seed care, and seeds businesses in a way that enables us to harness the potential of these technologies together. This isn't just about sales and marketing, and it certainly isn't about a product bundling. We're bringing R&D together. We're no longer seeing seeds and chemical R&D as being fundamentally separate things. The old model of finding a molecule and then finding a market for it is being replaced by trying to identify the problems facing the grower community and then bringing a variety of technologies to bear on them in the most effective way. And one example that may have some relevance in this market, of course, is our hybrid barley growing system, which combines our world-leading seed varieties in barley with excellence in seed care and crop protection technology, providing, I think, an unrivaled integrated solution for growers. This is being used at the moment primarily by farmers in Germany. The first results are very positive. Growers are seeing more yield, greater consistency, and increased profit. I think there's real value for the farmers there. And we hope to make this available right across Western Europe in the near future. And it should provide the platform for further development of this solution for wheat. And so I'm trying to look at the world differently is, I think, one of the reasons for this success. We're organizing the company into crop teams: cereals, vegetables, corn, field and specialty crops, and the bedrock of European farming, and further afield, sugarcane, soybeans, etc. This approach may seem entirely obvious to you, but it's not the way the industry has organized itself, and I think it's a point of real differentiation for Syngenta in the future. Well, I'm hugely optimistic and enthusiastic about the ability of technological innovation in general, and particularly what we're doing, to help equip you with the right tools to be productive and grow your businesses. But innovation has got to get to the marketplace if it is to have the desired effect. And since this is a conference which is being addressed by many of the leading and most respected political decision makers and influencers, not just from the UK, but also from the whole of Europe, let me just make a couple of points about the current legislative and regulatory environment. The first point is that we do, of course, need an effective and progressive legislative and regulatory framework. For farmers, that means enabling you to optimize production and supporting you in the stewardship of the land, whether for environmental or social benefit. For the industry, first and foremost, that has to ensure the safe production and use of crop protection chemistry, fairly govern the breeding, distribution, and use of high-quality seeds, and protect the intellectual property that is vital to continuous innovation. But on some of these points, I'm afraid that Europe in particular in recent years has shown a reluctance to adopt legislation that's progressive and enables innovation. It seems to be moving away from a science and evidence-based regulatory approach to one which seeks ever tighter controls and in some cases outright bans on improved farm technologies. I'm not just talking about the familiar GM issue. It sometimes seems as though in agricultural technology terms, many people in Europe would prefer to retreat behind a self-imposed iron curtain. You'll be aware, I'm sure, of the recent changes to the regulation of pesticides in Europe. The regulation was reasonably and rightly framed in the context of removing older classes of chemistry and stimulating new innovation. But the application of the new regulation is now threatening to hold back even the innovations we need because of breaches of highly theoretical, politically driven, hazard-based cut-off criteria. While this is happening, little is being done to stem the growing influx of counterfeit agricultural chemicals across the EU member states. With 1 in 20 sprays in Europe now potentially illegal, I'd like to believe that we focus on real as opposed to illusory threats to food safety. Now, there are sharply polarized, this is a highly contested issue. I mean, for some people, European environmental policies represent some kind of ideal of perfection or purity. For others, they represent the triumph of anti-scientific thinking. And there's maybe a bit of both going on. And all I would say is we're unlikely, to put it mildly, to arrive at good environmental policies by turning our back on science. And by the way, the rest of the world doesn't think we're being especially clever, as it seems to me. Now, the job of our political leaders will perhaps be made easier in Europe if we can agree on the way forward for European agriculture. I'd like to congratulate the UK government generally and the Foresight report in particular for advancing the principles of sustainable intensification. It's a very important concept which can help set objectives for farming in the UK, Europe and beyond. For us, it's a system-wide approach which links technology, land and people. These three elements establish the foundation for a sustainable production system in which strong rural economies and resource efficiency are fundamental to achieving food security. And you can apply them as well in East Anglia as you can in Tanzania. And these ingredients are already present in UK agriculture, and you're clearly all not only rising to the productivity challenge, but leading the way in good environmental management. And Syngenta is proud to be supporting this. Some of you will know about the proactive management of field margin work we do under operational pollinator. The scheme is now in its 11th year, initially developed in this country, and now rolled out across 13 European countries and beyond. We have over 2,000 hectares of field margins, pollinator-friendly, wildflower field margins. And that demonstrates something I'm sure you've known for some time, that productive agriculture and excellent environmental management go hand in hand. So we need to have an honest dialogue with the consumer about how we achieve sustainability. We see too much misleading communication, or advertisements making black and white comparisons between good and poor farming practices, which often deny the role of technology and science in agriculture. It may offer an advantage in short-term market positioning for some, but it does nothing to help consumers understand what we need to produce safe, healthy, and affordable food, and it does nothing to help world food security. So we have quite a challenge in front of us. I think the future is genuinely bright if we can overcome these obstacles. We need to work together, realize the opportunity we have, avoid an unnecessary food crisis, and ensure that you, British farmers, can make a full contribution to closing that production gap sustainably. I'm very grateful to Peter Kendall for inviting me to be here today, and I'm very grateful to you all for listening to me. Thank you.